Yep, it's a day ending in Y, so that means Das Food is here to give you another list video. Hello friends, I'm Das Food, and today I wanted to talk about annoyances in DBD, because look, here's the deal. Dead by Daylight can be a super fun game. It's very fun at its best, but at its worst, it's very, very hard to enjoy sometimes. And I think that most of what annoys me about the game is not even necessarily integral to the game itself. It's, people always talk about, oh, the devs this, the devs that, but so much of what I find particularly frustrating is not when maybe I clip in a map, or maybe, something doesn't load in properly, whatever. Like those are, they can be obnoxious, I guess. But really what bothers me tends to be a lot more about player behavior. So that's mostly what we're looking at here. But obviously, it's fair to say that there are aspects, the actual mechanical aspect of the game that, certainly frustrating. But anyway, what I want to do today is look at 10 different things I find annoying in DBD. If you enjoy, like, subscribe, do the whole thing. And by the way, make sure, I was going to say this at the end of the video, but make sure you put down below in the comments what you find annoying. If I get enough comments about that, I might do a follow-up video where I talk about what everybody in the comments was finding annoying, just so that I can kind of offer my opinion here and then air out your opinions later on. Jumping right in, I want to do number one, which is teabagging at the hatch. Now, this one drives me crazy. It drives me crazy if I'm the killer, and it drives me crazy if I'm a survivor and maybe I'm dead, maybe I escaped out the gate already, whatever. I look back and I see I spectated my teammates doing it. I hate teabagging at the hatch because you accomplished nothing. You accomplished nothing more than winning a coin toss. It was a 50-50. The hatch was going to spawn in a random location. You didn't do anything skillful. So why are you celebrating like you did something skillful? Firstly, in most cases, when the hatch spawns, it's because all three of your teammates are dead, right? You have lost. The game was an L, and you don't pull out a W just by getting out of the hatch. It's a mercy. It's a little like, hey, here's some extra BP. We're going to end this one now. Here's your hatch escape. It just makes no sense to teabag in that particular moment. Teabagging, contrary to what some would believe, teabagging has its place. There are times where teabagging actually makes a lot of sense from a strategic standpoint. Maybe you're trying to distract the killer. Maybe the killer was slapping you on hook, so you're just kind of giving salt back. I don't have really any problem with any of that. But if you do it at the hatch, I just feel like it's in such poor taste. You have nothing to gloat over. So I don't understand it. I don't do it. And honestly, it's just one of those things that every time I see it, I'm like, oh man, this community drives me crazy sometimes. And by the way, just a little spoiler, most of these are going to be BM, bad manners of some kind, because I generally do think that's just that's one of the big things that annoys me about the game is how ready to accept BM this community is. So if you feel like, hey, these all have a kind of common theme, props to you. You're very smart. You're going to pick it out. But yeah, I just don't like BM, and I think teabagging at the hatch is one of the worst kinds of BM just because of how stupid it is. But anyway, that's just my take on that. Next is more of a matter of sweat, and it's that it is always slugging for the 4K. Now, the key word there is always, because there are admittedly times where slugging for the 4K makes sense. Maybe you're doing it for an achievement, maybe you're doing it for an archive. If that's the reason, carry on. And then maybe the team you're going up against, maybe they were just like hyper toxic, they were nasty, they were doing that where, they keep telling you to follow them, they keep pointing at you, they're teabagging, they're trying to go for a flashlight save every 2 minutes. Like, they're just doing kind of typical bully squad stuff, and they brought nothing but, hope and made for this and all that. So, okay. Maybe in those scenarios, slugging for the 4K makes a ton of sense, or maybe you just really wanted to. I get it, there are times, but I do feel like you got to look at it from a different perspective, because if you kill 3 out of 4 survivors, congrats, you win. Whether or not the last survivor gets away is literally meaningless. Kind of that's back to the hatch argument, right? It says absolutely nothing about your skill one way or the other if the last survivor gets out through the hatch. But if you insist on dragging the game out, you slug the third person so you can go hunt down the fourth person, and you add so much time. It's like, my goodness, it's such a waste. It's such a waste because you're not going to get that many more blood points, and you're not going to extra win the game if you kill all 4 people. The rules are pretty simple, I think, for what constitutes wins and losses. 0 to 1 kills is a loss, 2 kills is a tie, 3 to 4 kills is a win for a killer. So I think 3 is just as valid as 4, and I really wish that maybe killers would stop feeling that need to slug just to make sure they get everybody. I don't love it. It's not something I personally enjoy, but who knows? Maybe that's what they like. But anyway, I would just say, take your win, let the game end. We are here for a good time, not a long time. Up next would be switching to Prestige 100 characters at the last second, and this one has to be survivors because obviously the killer cannot switch their character once they get into a lobby. So sorry, survivors, I'm trying to hit both sides here, but this one is specific to you. Now, I will say that some people think this is exceptionally toxic, but to me, I don't think it's that toxic. And even if it is, which again, I don't really think it is, but even if it is, it's not the toxicity that bothers me here. A little toxicity here and there really never hurt anybody. What bothers me about this strategy is that A, your prestige level means almost nothing in regard to skill, and B, it lets me know that you're more than likely going to be a very sweaty player. Like if you swap to a prestige 100 with a flashlight at the last second, I just start saying, okay, this game's probably not going to be very fun. Like most cases, there are obviously exceptions to this one, so if you were just, I don't know, you're leveling up one of your other characters and you swap back to your main at the last second just because you're trying to get rid of blood points, it doesn't apply to you. I just feel like the whole thing about switching to Prestige 100 is some kind of big reveal, right? I think intent matters here because I think it's honestly, more than anything, it's just, it's kind of cringy. I don't know. I know it's current year and I'm using the word cringy, but I think it reflects poorly. I don't know. I'd be interested to know if anybody else is like at all bothered by it. Because again, I don't think it's even like hyper toxic. I just think it's a sign that somebody's basically saying like, yeah, oh, you're in trouble now. I'm breaking out my big guns. And I do find there's a hilarious correlation between players who do that and people who DC early. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Next, we're going to call out some killer behavior because I am nothing if not fair and balanced, right? Yeah, and you can tell because I've been accused of being both survivor and killer biased over the years. So, I mean, I think that speaks for itself. And with killers, one thing I hate to see is what we would call humping. So for me, I completely understand tunneling, I understand camping, and I understand slugging in the right scenarios, but humping is it's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And it's dumb on numerous fronts. Firstly, it doesn't even look like you're humping the survivor. We only call it that because we all agreed to for some stupid reason. Secondly, the player you're doing it to has likely just started using their second monitor or their phone or whatever to like watch YouTube or play Retro Bowl or something like that. So you're really just wasting your time, not theirs. I promise you, they have zoned out. Thirdly, and most importantly, you're taking precious minutes from like the one life that you get to hold W, and then S, and then W, and then S, so you can simulate humping a virtual character who likely angered you by outplaying you in the first place. So it's like extra sad. I just feel like people who do this, it's just, they make me cry. They make me cry, and not for the reason of like, oh, I'm so angry that they're humping me. It's like, have some self-respect for yourself. Don't be like garden worm brained, No disrespect to garden worms. They're neat little critters. Next, at number 5, I'm going to go back to the survivor side of things and say not leaving when the gates are open. Now, obviously, there are reasons to stay behind. You come out, you take a hit for your teammate, you got to go get somebody off the hook. Maybe you, I don't know, you're collecting green glyphs or whatever. Like, I'm not saying, like with so many of these, there are valid reasons, right? But if you wait the entire in-game timer at the gate just to waste the killer's time in hopes of being toxic, in hopes that they will walk over so you can teabag them and you can point at them and you can say, haha, I beat you in this game. Oh, don't you feel silly? Well, you're a sore winner and you make me sad. Winners know how to succeed with grace. It's the losers who don't know what to do when they get there. So do better and remember that there is a human being on the other side of the trial, and excessive nastiness just really doesn't reflect well on anybody. At number 6, we go back to killers, and I say targeting baby survivors. And I'm really saying targeting them very aggressively. Now, I'm not entirely opposed to targeting a weak link if the rest of the team is completely, they just juice you every time you get within a country mile of them. But generally speaking, right, it's like with so many of these, generally speaking, sweating it out by killing the weakest member of the team as soon as possible is just a crappy thing to do. Most DBD players, if you'd believe it, play the game for fun and are just trying to enjoy gaming with some pals. So look, you certainly don't have to let them win. I'm not saying you gotta let them get away and all that, but making life just impossibly difficult for players still learning the game, and I mean still obviously learning the game, like real baby players, really bad players, it's not only rude, but it's bad for the game's ecosystem. Technically, the same goes for baby killers, but there's admittedly less you can do without just outright throwing, so I'm going to make this more of a killer type thing. But yeah, I don't want this game to become like For Honor, where you have this game with a really cool, unique concept, and then basically the sweats just try to eviscerate everybody who's not an absolute god like them, and all of a sudden you're down to like 12 concurrent players. Because again, I loved For Honor, and it was killed by a hyper sweaty community, so I don't want that to happen to Dead by Daylight. So yeah, just, maybe take it easy on babies. Nobody looks cool beating up a baby. At number 7, I will go back to the Survivor side of things. We're very much pendulum swinging this. Playing hyper immersed. Without a doubt, the best part of Dead by Daylight is the chases. Outside of chases, all there is to do is hold M1 on a generator, hold M1 to cleanse bones, hold M1 to open chests, or hold M1 to heal teammates. This game is designed entirely around the chase, which is why it boggles my mind that some people seem entirely unwilling and undesiring to loop. You know the type. They'll bring distortion and urban and calm spirit and all the other stealth perks, and they will play so cautiously that the killer will not see them or even know of their existence until the post-game scoreboard. This seems like the most boring way to play any game ever, and frankly, you'd probably get much more out of a Splinter Cell game than you would out of Dead by Daylight, if that's the experience you're looking for. This next one covers both sides, so look at that, I'm a fence sitter, I'm going to do the whole, well, actually both sides type thing here, and say that hyper meta builds or bust is what that's the header I gave it. And I think that's a pretty, that's a fair one, right? Because look, there's nothing wrong with bringing a powerful build. And I don't think really anybody's saying there is. Well, okay, it's the internet. Somebody's saying that it is, but you get my point. Maybe games have been tough lately and you need a little edge. Maybe the other side has been nastier than usual as of late. Maybe you just feel like it and you're a free person who can do whatever they like. That's all perfectly fine. What I can't understand though are the people who bring the most OP builds, Survivor or Killer, every game and never get bored of it. I think it's the kind of this double-edged sword of unfun, which is a terrible way to phrase that, but it's just extra stinks because what you're essentially doing is playing the game on easy mode and ensuring that every single game more or less looks kind of the same for you. You're not mixing it up at all. DBD is a lot better if you're willing to mix up your builds and just get a little silly with it. Have some fun with it. So look, you don't have to actively throw. I'm not saying self-care and no mither. Now I'm not saying self-care and no mither. You're absolutely free to, and I'd recommend you try it at least. But, I'm not saying you have to do these meme type throwing builds, but, just find that happy medium between throwing and sweating every single match. Just kind of find that ground where it's like, okay, I'm going to mix it up some. I'm going to do something a little new here, and I'm going to see how I like it, because I think you'll be pleased with the results. These people who have thousands of hours in the game almost always start mixing things up, because frankly, you shouldn't be able to play a game for thousands of hours and never change anything. Like, please reward your brain with a little more cognition than that. I am begging you. Up at number 9 is debatably the one that makes me the most angry, because I consider myself a pretty laid back, pretty chill guy. I do not really take the game too seriously, but this one rustles my jimmies. It shivers my timbers. This one is number 9, giving up, DCing, really. You don't have to necessarily DC. Maybe you just start pointing at the hook and refusing to participate in normal gameplay. So, giving up, generally speaking. I've been playing this game since before the release of Clown back in 2018, and I have probably DC'd genuinely maybe 5 times max, because I know I've DC'd at least a few times against blatant hackers where they're just taking the game hostage and they're not letting me go. But in terms of actually DCing, I'm not having a good time, so I'm just going to leave. I don't think I've ever done that. I really don't think I've ever done that. And the reason I don't DC is because despite the flaws that I certainly have, and look, I think we can all agree I have my flaws, right? You just ask Twitter, right? They're there. I have them, but despite my flaws, I'm not a giant baby who can't handle adversity, right? DBD is a party game, yes, but it's also a competition, and sometimes in a competition, your opponent is going to get the upper hand. If you DC whenever you're the first one hooked or the first one down, or whenever the first gen pops just a little too quickly for your liking, I would argue that you should probably just switch to single player games. Go play Baldur's Gate, go play Starfield, take Kote's advice, go play Civilization 6, it's a great game. Go play single player games, because at least there, your lack of resolve will not inconvenience others. And then finally, the last one, just a little cherry on top here at number 10, getting mad in the post-game chat. Because look, okay, sometimes the game's going to rub you the wrong way. It's going to happen, right? Maybe the other side used a busted perk, the map was mega unfair, bugs cost you some downs or some escapes or whatever. Maybe the game was just genuinely, uniquely frustrating for a variety of reasons. It's okay to get frustrated. Most people, in fact, everybody, will at some point in the fog. I guarantee you, if you made Gandhi play this game for 1,000 hours, he would at least do some crazy salt at least once, right? He would pop off at least once. That's just kind of part and parcel when it comes to a game like Dead by Daylight. But still, being a mature person means either saying GG or just saying nothing and moving on. Like, you gain nothing by just raging about how, oh, well, we were on RPD and that's BS. I can't possibly be expected to, the devs, they're so killer sided or they're so survivor sided. The devs hate me specifically. The devs hate me because if they didn't hate me, Das Food, they would give me my Twitch shirt already. Das Food, Das_food, Twitch. Give me the shirt behavior. I like purple. But anyway, the devs hate me, right? It's so silly. It's so silly to get bent out of shape in the post-game chat. Like, it's one thing, I think, to be like, they say GG after being super toxic. It's like, hey, yo, what's up with that? Like, it's fine if you want to feel that way, but don't argue with people on the internet. Have you learned nothing, you sweet summer child? Don't argue with people on the internet. You're not going to change anyone's mind. Everybody just argues for sport on here. So I don't know. To me, it's kind of like you gain nothing by malding in the post-game chat. At best, you're screaming into the void, right? You're screaming into the void. At worst, you're getting put in a YouTube video about salty players, which, I mean, admittedly, look, we all watch them. We can all say they're trash content, but they're fun. It's fun. It's like watching Jersey Shore back in the day. Like, is it a little on the trashy side? Yeah, but is it super fun to watch? Yeah. Regardless, if you're malding, you've forgotten the most important question in gaming. If it's not fun, why bother? Play this game and every other game to have fun, not to argue with strangers about whether or not DBD is balanced. If you're going to get mad, though, please do make sure you tell me how you've reported me and how I'm going to get banned. This game can get stressful and I need a laugh every now and then. Now, anyway, that's going to do it for me. I hope you have enjoyed this one. As I mentioned in the early part, I hope that you will go down below. Let me know not only what you thought of the video, did you like it, did you not, usual stuff like that, but let me know what annoys you in Dead by Daylight. And it can be anything. I'm not putting a cap on this, like, oh, and don't say, oh, I don't like this killer. Like, hey, if a killer really bothers you, let me know. Just be straightforward with me. Let me know what annoys you. And like I said, if I get enough comments on it, I'll probably make a follow-up video. But either way, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are. Please do check out my Twitch. I don't stream that often, but when I do, it's a good time. As always, like and subscribe. Take care. Hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are. And until next time, I have been Das Food. Bye, friends.
And I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my